Welcome to the NSLOP podcast. Just a short one today, a quick reaction to the NFL draft, which just took place this past weekend. You just got me, Josh, and Chris joining me today. Obviously, one of the main teams I'm sure we're going to talk about is the Steelers. So nice to have you here, Chris. Before I check in the deep end of that one, I've just got a few teams, and we'll go through alphabetical order to highlight some major talking points and kind of stop and go through where everything sits. But, first team which stood out for me really was the Carolina Panthers. I think they had an incredible draft class. Got JC Horn, first cornerback. I could see a lot of arguments there for whichever cornerback is rated the highest, but I think an athletic freak at that position is always a good thing. An athletic freak is exactly what the rest of their draft class, typifies. I mean, Brady Christensen, one of the best testing offensive tackles that we've had in a long time. The guy's 25 years old though, so not a young man entering the league. He's coming in the middle of some people's career. Chuba Hubbard with that 100-meter speed we keep on talking about. Davian Nixon, who somehow fell. And then they've got Keith Taylor, who was one of the absolute premier boundary corners, just didn't record any of the real flashy numbers. And so I think a real solid pickup for them. And then finally topped off with Shi Smith, one of the best slot wide receivers, I'm sure, to come out of it. So for me, a brilliant draft class. Chris, what did you think about Panthers and how they did?
Yeah, we were both big fans of Chuba Hubbard, so really pleased that he's got an opportunity to get a couple of plays here and there, which is what he is, like athletic freak, ultimate speed, but obviously behind CMC there. To be honest, I think they could have got JC Horn a little bit lower. It surprised me that they went cornerback at 8 or overall. I think he would have been there at sort of 16. I think they could have dropped and picked up some values there. We all thought Patrick Surtain was going to be the first cornerback off the board, but I have no issues with them drafting JC Horn, but I think they could have got him a little bit later on, so could have get some extra picks a little bit later.
It's an interesting point because another team I was going to talk about pretty shortly were the Dallas Cowboys, and they got burned massively. Sat at number 10, JC Horn, Patrick Surtain off the board. We all know what happened. They traded down, took Michael Parsons at 12, and then turned around and told everyone he was our favorite defensive player anyway. We liked him more than those two. But, let's be real. Like, if JC Horn was there at 10, they're never trading down. They're taking him. So I really think that if the Panthers thought JC Horn was their guy, that was the time to take him, or he wasn't there, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Obviously, the Cowboys really needed to strengthen up cornerback. So I think once they saw both JC Horn and Surtain off the board, I think there were some issues with Caleb Fry and his back surgery. So I think they did the right thing in taking Michael Parsons, arguably the best skill-based linebacker. So obviously with Sean Lee retiring, I think it's a need they wanted or need they had. I think cornerback would have suited them better. But I don't think they would complain too much with Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Cowboys were one of the massive losers of the draft. I clearly rated them as an F. I think they had about 3 picks, which I genuinely thought were good. All the rest were just terrible. And yeah, Micah Parsons was there. I love Jabril Cox and his value in round 4, LSU linebacker. Again, that's another linebacker though. Now you've drafted 2 linebackers who are your 2 best picks of the draft. And then they got Israel Mukuamu, who's a round 6 cornerback who's just like 6'4", 6'5", scary athlete. So they were the only picks which I looked at and I thought anything good came of them. And I just thought the Cowboys had an awful draft. But that could have changed in your scenario.
What do you make of Kelvin Joseph, though, second round cornerback?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is it was a very deep cornerback draft class. It's tough to evaluate corners, and I would never assume that I know any more than these NFL pro scouts. They're paid for a reason, and I'm sat here making a YouTube video with you, Chris. So, yeah, I'm sure Kelvin Joseph is a great player. I just didn't like the value. I just didn't like the fact, if you want to trade down in the first round, which I'm all for, if you don't get one of your first 2 corners, just take Caleb Farley. I just don't see the value in Micah Parsons over him. Maybe they didn't know Jabril Cox was going to drop. You can't predict that part of it, but they ended up with their two best players both being at the same position.
I mean, with the added game coming into this season, then there's going to be more depth needed for your roster. So I don't think they would be unhappy with collecting two of the highly rated linebackers. But I do agree, cornerback was probably a better first round dig for them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're betting on Diggs to kind of have a really good sophomore campaign and turn it around. Who knows what their thoughts are on their secondary existing, but I genuinely think they felt like they missed something there. Then we got the Chicago Bears. We called it. We had our session before the draft. We said if teams going to trade up, it's either the Patriots or the Bears were really where we were thinking, and the Bears absolutely did. And they nabbed Justin Fields at pick 11, I think it was, round 111. Probably the best pick of the entire draft, in my opinion. I know everyone's throwing out the epilepsy thing, like that's actually an issue, but really, like, come on. Then round 2, they got Tevin Jenkins, one of the better offensive tackles. Brilliant pick there. I love Khalil Herbert, the running back. I think he plays with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of burst and juice. Daz Newsome, always a great wide receiver for North Carolina, had a great bowl season too for them. And then you got Tonga, who was a massive high upside interior defensive lineman. So for me, the Bears absolutely hit it out of the park. One of the best draft classes in the league. Chris, if you're the Bears or a Bears fan right now, are you super pumped coming into next season?
You have to be. I mean, you're looking at Justin Fields or Andy Dalton, or in the past you're looking at Nick Foles or Trubisky. Now Trubisky had one good year. Nick Foles has won a Super Bowl. Andy Dalton is okay. Justin Fields, to see him slide to 11, they had to make that move. A fantastic pick, and if you are a Bears fan, you must be excited. I just can't. It's making me smile, and I don't even like the Bears. Like, it's a fantastic pick, and it could be a franchise-altering quarterback. Arguably, it could be the best quarterback they've ever had.
Yeah, exactly. And what a steal at 11. That says a lot about the strength of quarterbacks we had in this year's draft, and also how these minor health knocks really play against people. We talked about Caleb Farley. I know they do their assessment. It's been a harder year to do the assessment. And if you're not sure, why waste a high value draft pick on them? But yeah, it really felt like the Bears had a brilliant draft. Another team who I think everyone is basically jumping on the bandwagon, saying they had a really good draft of the Cleveland Browns. I would say they had a good draft. I would categorize them as an A, not an A+ or an A++. They obviously picked up one of the best undrafted free agents in the defensive tackle too. Marvin Wilson, so forgot his name for a second there. Yeah, and then they picked up Greg Newsome, the second, who was a brilliant cornerback. We all loved him. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, brilliant linebacker. That value in the second round where they got him was great. James Hudson, think he's got really good star potential in the NFL too. Togiai, somehow they found all these players that dropped. Demetric Felton, offensive weapon, but it just seemed like a lot of players who, they were all players who dropped, right? They were all players who dropped, who just fell into their laps. And there's got to be something which the rest of us don't know that causes a player to drop, right, Chris?
You would think that, but I mean, we just talked about the Bears fans heading into this season. Obviously, the off-season additions that the Cleveland Browns have made is actually making them look like a really good team. And there was a second half improvement in the end of last season. Obviously, snuck into the playoffs, beat the Steelers, which was fantastic. And then it's actually looking like they might have an actual competitive team moving forward. So I don't know. Maybe they did drop for a reason, but if you were a Browns fan, I would be getting excited, I think.
Yeah, my opinions of Baker Mayfield. Is this the year when everyone else finally realizes that he is a bottom tier quarterback, and Cleveland find themselves stuck in quarterback purgatory, not able to pick the quarterback they need?
Well, I don't ever root for the Browns, but I don't know. as a divisional rival, I'm concerned. You know.
I mean, surely they've got a good chance of running at Aaron Rodgers. You know, let's talk about it. I mean, I know Denver is where everyone's looking at, and there've been murmurs. You know, just someone hypothesized, what if Russell Wilson went in one direction and Aaron Rodgers went in the other? But what if Baker Mayfield went in one direction and Aaron Rodgers went in the other? I mean, I don't think it would happen, but like if I was the Browns GM, I'd be doing everything to make that happen.
Oh yeah, of course. You want future Hall of Famer or do you want Baker? I think you'd be trying to make that happen, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going anywhere.
Yeah. So I'd ask. Speaking of other teams that I wanted to touch on, we just mentioned the Denver Broncos, and I think they had a horrific draft. Other than Patrick Surtain, who is a great selection. Yeah, it wasn't the biggest need, but most people were mocking a cornerback to the Denver Broncos anyway, because that was where the value sat in the draft. But then you just look at everything else. You know, they didn't take Justin Fields. Instead, they took Patrick Surtain. How do you justify that to your fan base? And then trading up for Javonte Williams. You know, I know you talked about him, Chris. I know you love the guy. I love the guy too. He was my number one running back in this entire class. But I'm still not trading up in the second round for him when I've got Melvin Gordon earning mega money on my team already.
Well, they did lose Philip Lindsay in the offseason. So they definitely had a need there. And I think you could argue that there were quite a few teams ahead of them that would have potentially taken Javonte Williams. So interesting to see how he compares with Melvin Gordon, obviously who can do all three downs, and sort of bring in Williams, who's going to be a big of a bruiser. So it'll be interesting to see how he does there. Similar, in my opinion, similar to the first round for the Carolina Panthers. I don't think cornerback was the right pick at that position. Obviously, with the mocks, most people had 4 quarterbacks straight away. So with Justin Fields sitting there, I think they could have taken him, as you said, and I think that probably would have been the better pick, despite having picked up Teddy Bridgewater recently. I think Surtain, great talent. Everyone's really excited. But I think they added, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they added 2 free agent cornerbacks in free agency. So it baffles me. Good talent, probably wasn't the number one need.
Yeah, they did. Kyle Fuller, and I forgot the other cornerback, but I think it's more of a slot. But Bryce Callahan, was it? No, I can't remember. But yeah, good points, Chris. You know, they obviously addressed corner and then just, you know, tripled down on it in the draft. We'll see how that pans out. You know, who knows? Maybe next year they get one of the top guys. Desmond. Yeah. There's plenty of them out there. You know, Spencer Rattler, Desmond Ritter, Sam Howell. You know, maybe that's what they're looking at. 2022 NFL draft.
Maybe.
The Detroit Lions, I also think they had a brilliant draft. Obviously, they're sat there. They've got Jared Goff as their quarterback. Not a nice position for any team. Rams finally managed to get rid of him.
And his contract.
Yeah, and his contract. But they felt very similar to the Browns. Everything just kind of fell in their lap, and they took exactly what they got given. You know, Penei Sewell, round 1, pick 7. Incredible value there. What a pick. They got Onwuzurike and McNeil, 2 of the best defensive linemen in the class, 1 pass rusher, 1 nose tackle. Brilliant in rounds 2 and 3. Round 3, they got Melifonwu, one of the best cornerbacks, someone who a lot of people were speculating could come into the back end of a first round. Brilliant value there in round 3. And then they got Amon-Ra St. Brown in round 4. You know, it just felt like every one of their first 5 picks was just money. You know, it just really felt like it. I'm very impressed with what the Lions did, and I really look forward to seeing what happens with them in the future as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Really, really good draft class again. Like you said, a couple of players fell to them. It almost kind of fell perfectly. So maybe we'll be changing our opinions on Dan Campbell and the Lions into this season. But, you know, the first pick, Penei Sewell, I don't think anybody was expecting him to be there at 7. So if he's there, generational talent, you've got to take him.
Yeah. I think there was some controversy. Maybe I'm remembering the wrong draft room, but I think in the Lions draft room, the guy went around congratulated them after a pick. I can't remember which pick it was. One of the second, third, or fourth picks. And basically, the defensive coordinator or head scout, it was a head scout actually, really shunned the congratulations and looked really depressed. You have to look it up, fact check on myself. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Lions.
But they, with Penei Sewell, you saw them. If you've seen the footage of them, they were so happy that they couldn't believe it. Like, oh my God, he's here. We take him.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jared Goff, he's okay. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I've heard some good stuff. I've not seen any tape, but I've heard some good stuff about him. Defensive tackles, they picked up really two really good ones. So, it's a 6-year contract for Dan Campbell. They know it's a project. They'll probably be up in the higher picks next year as well, one could assume. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but good foundational draft class for sure. Texans, they had so little. Yeah, they had so little to work with, and so little expectations of what they could accomplish, and they still underwhelmed. Like, they still performed awfully, even considering that. Davis Mills, I just can't get behind the guy. I know a lot of people kind of liked him, but it just feels like his ceiling is like a Derek Carr, Minshew style quarterback. This guy who's never going to take you to where you really ultimately want to be, the Super Bowl championship games. But is he, just about good enough as a game manager to kind of get you across the line, get you 6 wins in a season and stuck in quarterback purgatory? That's what it feels like, join the Broncos in that middle of the pack stretch with no prospects anywhere. I did like Nico Collins, decent wide receiver from Michigan, big bodied guy, good pick. They traded up a lot to get him, which is probably the reason why everything else was awful. And Brevin Jordan, he was an athletic tight end, but does he translate to the NFL level? Who knows? But yeah, I'm really underwhelmed, Chris. What about you?
Well, they didn't, like you said, they didn't really have much to play with after numerous trades and giving everything up for players that haven't really worked out. Obviously, Laremy Tunsil, fantastic player, but I feel they gave up way too much. In hindsight, definitely way too much for a non-quarterback. And we've seen the Dolphins have used that to their advantage massively, but the Texans definitely haven't. It's difficult to say with Mills. Like you said, there's a lot of people that were quite high on him. Obviously not in the top 3, top 4, but for it was their first pick, wasn't he? So there was obviously some
first pick.
We know about the potential issues with Deshaun Watson, so they've got Tyrod Taylor. It potentially could be a need for them this season, if not moving forward. So I think they had to take somebody. Does he get me excited? Not really.
Yeah, fair analysis, I think there. I guess whenever you've got Tyrod Taylor as your quarterback, you always got to worry about whatever medical staff are going to do to him. So better to have someone there in case. Then, let's go back to the positives. It feels like we're going negative to positive to negative to positive. I think that's just the way it seems to work out alphabetically. Next on the list is a team who actually did quite a good number with their draft class, in my opinion, Jacksonville. The Jaguars. They did exactly what was expected at 1.1. They didn't try anything too clever. They executed well. I think we'll all look back at it and say, you did exactly what we all knew you should do, which was the right thing to do. However, what were they doing on ETN? Why do that to yourself? Why waste picks and jump up to get a running back in the first round when you got James Robinson? I'm not going to lie to you. ETN is obviously a better running back than James Robinson. And James Robinson has shown how easy it is for running backs to produce in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. So why waste it? Why go for that guy when there's so much talent left on the board? I thought Tyson Campbell, cornerback, I believe he's from Georgia, brilliant selection. Walker Little, offensive line, great choice too. Andre Cisco, brilliant safety. Could have been the highest rated safety in the class, in my opinion. Very, very close to being up there with Moehrig and players like that. And then you got JT Fale, one of the players who dropped as well. So they did a lot of really good things, but it's just the difference between being, B++ draft class and being an A+ is that ETN pick. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Well, he was my number one running back, ETN. But I don't think they needed to move up six places. I don't think any of the teams in that range were going to potentially draft a running back. Maybe the Bills. But they've taken a franchise-altering quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. They've taken a really good cornerback where they needed, and they've taken a running back where they arguably didn't need after such a fantastic season from James Robinson. But like you said, the rest of the picks really good, and I think this was the first time the Jags have been number one overall, and I think a lot of people are excited to see what Trevor Lawrence and co can do this season.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of excitement around that camp, I'm sure. And for the most part, they did a great job. For the most part, they absolutely did a great job. And who knows, ETN may make us eat our words. Could easily be the best rookie running back this season. Don't doubt that part. Given his role and potential role in the backfield. Let's move back to a bad draft class. Las Vegas Raiders. They're the punching bag of the NFL right now. So it seems.
Again.
I actually really like Alex Leatherwood. I was a big fan of his. I think whenever you come out of one of the top teams like he did, I believe it was Alabama, offensive tackle, you're polished. We saw exactly what that Alabama offensive line has done for Mac Jones, for the team to win the national championship. That's no mistake. That's no coincidence. That is exactly who they are, and I love Alex Leatherwood as a result. However, how can you justify taking him when you got Darisaw and plenty of players still on the board? If you like that guy, if that is your guy, trade down, pick him later. It really feels like that. They played themselves. They knew who they wanted to take and they just took that guy, which is the right thing to do for an organization. But you have to have some concept of value somewhere. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I like Moehrig, Trevor Moehrig. They picked up 3 safeties in the draft, which really wasn't a good look for them either. No one else stood out. It's just that Leatherwood selection, which really let them down because of where they took it. Right? What are your thoughts?
I totally agree. And they did the same with Henry Ruggs last year. He was the first wide receiver to come off the board and didn't really do much, to be fair. Exciting talent, really good prospect. But like you said, there's got to be some comprehension of value. You could have. Offensive line was definitely the place that needed to strengthen after letting basically everyone go in the off season. So I don't dislike the player, don't dislike the talent, just not there at that pick. They could have faded down, dropped down, got some more picks in return, picked up another offensive line piece after releasing so many. But I don't even know who picks the picks anymore for the Raiders. It just seems every year they just have like their own zone and their own vision. Like this is who we're picking. I don't care who else wants to trade up or whatever. This is who we're going for. Like tunnel vision for their guy.
Yeah, you just got Mike Mayock and Gruden cooking up some weird potions in their backyard, and that's what they come out with as their draft board. It hasn't worked so far. Who knows? Maybe it works this year. Another great draft class were the Chargers. I think typified 3 selections alone is all I need to know. They had a really good draft. Rashawn Slater, one of the absolute premier offensive line talents in this draft class. Top 3, top 4 talent. Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback in the second round. Okay, yeah, I know. Probably that's really where his value was, but second round talent is brilliant anyway at cornerback position. And then you got Chris Rumph, brilliant edge rusher. Those 3 alone, it just felt like the Chargers knew exactly where they wanted to go, filled some spots. And, I would be really pumped if I was a Chargers fan. Again, Justin Herbert, 1 season, moved on. Now he's got some more talent to work with and a better O-line.
Yeah, definitely. To see Rashawn Slater drop to them, they must have been absolutely buzzing. Like there were definitely teams who could have taken him before. I think they were laughing when he fell to them. I think it would have been nice for them to maybe have gone for a wide receiver higher up. Not necessarily where they were originally after obviously the top three all went Chase, Waddle, and Devonta Smith. But Justin Herbert had a fantastic season last year, thrown into it after the injury to Tyrod Taylor that we mentioned. Fantastic production, really good arm, and actually adapted to the league really well. So if you're giving him more time with Rashawn Slater in the O-line, then watch out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, more time's a big factor there, isn't it, really? The Rams. What were they doing, Chris? Like, probably one of the worst draft classes too. Okay, they don't have a round 1 selection. You got to let them off for that. But okay, they had Tutu Atwell, who looks like a good, speedy, nifty little receiver. Robert Rochelle, who's a very developmental prospect at cornerback. But everything was just awful. Like, I just walked away and I just sat there like, what did they do? I think one of their biggest splashes which they've made is picking up Paris Ford, safety from Pittsburgh, as an undrafted free agent. But their draft class, really, I was not impressed at all.
No, I mean, I must admit, I don't really know anybody that they've drafted, to be fair. On review, I couldn't name any or two to what we've mentioned on the pod, but most of their picks were compensatory as far as I could tell. But yeah, no, I don't really have a comment on the Rams. But they never have a first round pick because they always just trade it away for value. And they don't have one next year either, I don't think, in the Jalen Ramsey trade. No. Or maybe that was this year.
The Jalen Ramsey one was this year. But I also believe they don't have a first round pick, but I can't remember for sure. Stafford. I don't think they traded a first rounder for Stafford, but I could be wrong. I can't remember. Let's
either way, it's the Rams.
Whatever. Yeah, they haven't had a first round pick since
2016.
Yeah, no, I think it's even earlier than that. But yeah, 2016 at the most recent period of time. The Dolphins, though, they absolutely crushed it, Chris. Like, this is my favorite of all of the draft classes. They absolutely knocked it out the park. Jalen Waddle and Jalen Phillips, you get two of the absolute top talents in this draft class. Really great value. I love Jevon Holland as a safety. He had cornerback flexibility too. He played there previously in college. Great sense for where the ball is and making some picks. And then Liam Eichenberg, who's, such a great offensive line talent. Have no idea how he fell, how he did. A lot of people were mocking him in the first round even. But, for me, that's it. If Tua doesn't perform this year, then that's the only thing which can go wrong, right?
Yeah, totally agreed. Waddle fits what Tua likes, that down the field opportunity. And obviously Waddle can play in the slot and score from anywhere because he's so fast. But I think bringing in the best weapons for Tua to have the opportunity to succeed, then it is down to him. Fitzpatrick's moved on. They've brought in Will Fuller, who's another down the field stretcher, elite speed. And that's what Tua didn't really do last year. And we talked about it at numerous times through the back end of the season when he came in for Fitzpatrick. He didn't really look like an NFL ready QB. And maybe that was what they were trying to do. Maybe in their head, they had all this draft capital from the trades that I've discussed, and they were planning to give Tua experience this year ahead of the upcoming season, where it is his time to step up. And if he doesn't, do they move on? I think it was difficult. Obviously, we know about the injury history that Tua had, but I think he's definitely got the weapons moving forward offensively. And like you said, Jalen Phillips, first round talent as well, to pick him up as well, superb. Really good. And we're all big fans of Brian Flores and his team, so rooting for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we didn't talk about it. Obviously, Bengals took Jamar Chase, teaming him up with Joe Burrow. LSU teammates reunited. Jalen Waddle's teaming up with Tua. Ex-Alabama teammates reunited. However, Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith pre-draft were bigging up Mac Jones, saying they much preferred playing with him. It wasn't like a disparaging comment. They just said comments that they liked Mac Jones. Do you think that factors in any way for the Dolphins
No,
in their locker room?
no, I don't think so.
He's a big boy. He can move on from it.
You would hope so. He's being paid a lot of money, so.
Yeah. Well, he's the quarterback, right? He's the leader. He's meant to lead by example. So yeah, first test awaits. Vikings, another team who had a great draft. I didn't even have enough space to write down all of their players that I liked. Christian Darrisaw, what an offensive line talent. You know, they got a brilliant option there. Wyatt Davis in round 3, one of my favorite guards. You know, again, same point as we made with Alex Leatherhead at Alabama. Same point can be made for Wyatt Davis at Ohio State. You know, you watch any of those games, and he was a big part of why they did so well. Then they got Kellen Mond. You know, top 5 quarterback in my opinion. I'm so pumped to see if he can win a camp battle with Kirk Cousins or take over the throne at some point and really, you know, propel them up. It's a low risk, high reward selection, that one. Chaz Surratt, great linebacker. Janarius Robinson, great edge rusher. Emir Smith, Marset, brilliant value at wide receiver. You know, they just seem to hit it, you know, right across this draft class. It's name value at this point, but I would expect that we look back on that draft class and we think of it as one of the absolute top ones.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Mike Zimmer's been around in the league for a long time, and they've picked up some really good defensive prospects. Christian Darrisaw on the O-line as well. Really exciting to see how they adapt. But like you said, I was waiting for you to bring up Kellen Mond. I know you're a big fan. But yeah, I don't see him winning the starting job this year. I think Kirk Cousins has that under wraps. I think they've got, I was reading about this earlier, I think they've got 2 fully guaranteed years left on his contract, and then they can sort of restructure that if they need to. But, you know, Kirk Cousins is a solid QB, and if Kellen Mond can come in and take that job, then fair play.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, speaking of quarterbacks, New England Patriots up next on my list, took Mac Jones. Decent selection at 15. You know, I know they get a lot of slack. A lot of people suddenly turned around and were low on Mac Jones. We stayed relatively high on him. Very interested to see what he does in that system. I don't think it's a very forgiving one for a quarterback. You know, Bill Belichick expects a lot, and he expects a lot immediately. Hopefully Mac Jones can deliver. But I don't doubt that he can. You know, he's shown he deals in pressure scenarios. And the other thing, obviously, Christian Barmore, brilliant value in the second round. Can't go without mentioning him. But Ramondre Stevenson, what a New England running back if there ever was one. You know, other than Javonte Williams, he was a big bulldozer, one of the biggest in the class. You know, he's just that guy, like a LeGarrette Blount Jr. style, right? What did you make of it, Chris?
No, that was the comparison I had. You know, I wasn't that big a fan of him when we did our running back reviews. But that was the name I was leaning towards. Big bruiser, just straight down the middle, no nonsense. That's what he's going to do. Pretty steamroll 1 or 2. But Mac Jones, everyone was mocking it. It happened, and they didn't even need to move up. Obviously, with Kyle Pitts going up 4, and you know a couple of other players dropping. We saw the Bears discuss them jumping up for Fields, and then they were the only team that needed a quarterback, and he just fell perfectly. And I think he'll do just fine. I think Cam will probably be the starter. It'll be an interesting battle. But yeah, Christian Barmore, really good pickup. You know, surprised that he fell into the second, to be honest.
Yeah, it just shows a lot about the devaluation of defensive line talent, doesn't it, really? Defensive tackle, specifically interior D-line. The Jets had a great draft class as well, Chris. You know, I wrote down on my notes, crushed it. Like, they absolutely did. Zach Wilson didn't mess around, took the right guy at number 2. You know, I think he would have easily been the number 1 pick in any other draft class that didn't contain Trevor Lawrence. Really great player. And then they went up and took Elijah Vera Tucker. Absolutely love that. You know, that is what makes a championship roster when you're creating it. You know, don't be afraid to go and nab the guys that you need. Then they got Elijah Moore, brought in a top tier wide receiver talent, and Michael Carter. You know, now they've got that flexibility at running back. They've got a true name value there. You know, I just felt like those 4 picks combined, that was a brilliant draft class for me. What were your thoughts?
You're not a fan of Lev Bell?
Left Bell. Yeah.
I mean, he's moved on to KC, but yeah, fantastic. And I think it showed good realization from the Vikings about the value they could get for that 14th pick. And I think Vera Tucker was fantastic move, fantastic grab, and it could again be a really foundation-setting draft for Robert Saleh and moving into New York. Got a new quarterback, got protection for the quarterback, got weapons for the quarterback, and a running back, very highly rated running back. They had lots of draft capital and used it wisely. So, will it be this year that they do well? I'm not sure. They must be better than last year, surely.
Yeah, it can't be any worse. I mean, well, I guess there's one spot worse that it could.
There's one.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. You
could argue that they did terribly and they did so bad they didn't even get the first pick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think
they messed that up.
They managed to failing in such a Jets last season way. Yeah, that was very impressive. Then let's talk about the Eagles and the Giants. Just specifically about what happened. The Eagles obviously picked up the last of the top 3 wide receivers in Devontae Smith. Brilliant value for them. Then they got some great talent too. Landon Dickerson fell because of injury concerns. Kenneth Gainwell, a lot of good picks for them too. The Giants, however, were left pick 11, and suddenly the 3 top wide receivers had gone. Obviously, that's the point when they choose to trade back with the Bears. Got some great draft capital. Took Kadarius Toney, who's a great consolation prize, and got a top tier talent in Azeez Ojulari. Again, some injury concerns and a great cornerback in Aaron Robinson. If you're looking at the 2 of them side by side, Giants versus Eagles, who do you think won that battle, Chris, for the draft class?
Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Eagles. I mean, I was a big fan of Kadarius Toney, but they've made the trade down, and then it's they've got draft capital back, but that's not the player that they were targeting, I don't think. They added Kenny Golladay in the offseason, so perhaps they didn't need to go wide receiver there. They've got another couple of other receiving options. But Azeez Ojulari, fantastic pickup. Aaron Robinson, as you said. But I think Devonta Smith, partnering him up with Jalen Hurts, that's another young quarterback, giving him a familiar face. We talk about Chase and Burrows. We talk about Waddle and Tua, and again another one here, Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts. But Landon Dickerson really good as well. But I think the Eagles fans would be happier in my book.
Yeah, I mean, I strongly feel like when we look back on this draft class, Devonta Smith will be one of those players who we go, why didn't you take him? And it'll be like the Russell Wilson style, where it was like his body was too skinny. And everyone will be like, what are you talking about? Like, this guy could just play football. Just let him play. So, yeah, fully agree with you there. I think they both had good draft classes, but I agree. Eagles did slightly better, and that difference between Devontae Smith and Kadarius Toney for me is big as well. Chris, we're finally there. We're finally there. The moment you've been waiting for. The Pittsburgh Steelers. What a terrible draft that was. What an awful draft class they have pulled together. Just everywhere. There's one pick. Okay, I'll tell you there's one pick which I like that they made. There's only one. Let's start with what I didn't like. Najee Harris, round 1. What are you doing? Look at that offensive line talent that is on the board. Why are you taking a running back who doesn't have elite speed, who doesn't play as tough as you assume he can by being a bruiser, he's got very soft hands. I'll give you that. He may make me look like an idiot when we look back on this, but he's still not worth that pick. And then you got Pat Fryermuth in round 2, like one of the least athletic tight ends to come out of college. He looks like a Steelers tight end before they had Eric Ebron. He looks like a Steelers tight end. He does. He looks like Miller. He looks like all of them. The only pick which I liked at all was Quincy Roche, or Roche. I don't know if it's Roche or Roche in round 6. But that's because he had such a slide. And fell into the lap. But start of the season, people were thinking round 1. But, here he is in round 6. That pick's always going to look good. But, yeah, Chris, tell us, what are your thoughts as the Steelers fan?
Well, when we were doing our mocks, I was always torn between offensive line, then running back, then offensive line. Looking at the talent that was there, I probably would have gone offensive line. But do I want Benny Snell as the starting running back for my team in the next season? Hell no. So am I upset with the Najee Harris pick? No. Do I think we could have given the O-line a boost there with one of the better names? Probably. But I'm not upset. You know, one of the top 3 running backs in the draft class. So lots of comparisons to Lev Bell, not accelerating massively, but probably the most pro-ready from a lot of the reports. Most pro-ready 3 down back as well. So I'm not. Do I love it? No. Do I hate it? No. Pat Freiermuth is actually quite exciting, I think. If he turns out anything like Keith Miller, that would be fantastic. We lost a couple of tight ends. I think Vance McDonald, I think he retired in the end. So it is Eric Ebron only. So we do need a blocker. We do need another tight end. I think Freiermuth could work on his blocking. He needs that to be better. It wasn't where I was expecting us to go round 2. That's for sure. But he's probably after Kyle Pitts, he was the second best on the board this class. And Quincy Roche is the only other one that I was like really, really good to see. Actually, I'm intrigued by Buddy Johnson, linebacker, Texas A&M, 4th round. To be fair, his offensive tackle partner from A&M, Dan Moore Jr. So interesting to see what they do. We picked up the punter. Did you see the punter? Presley Harvin, the 3rd, 7th round pick. He is a punter, but he's an absolute unit.
Built like an offensive lineman.
Yeah, maybe there is some versatility there. Maybe it's maybe
swing tackle punter.
We'll just reclassify him like mid-season because we realize he's actually really good. No. We did pick up players in positions that we needed. We needed running back. We needed offensive line. We needed tight end. We needed edge rusher. We needed linebacker. And we needed cornerback. So we've picked up players in all the positions that we needed. Will they all succeed? I don't know. Maybe.
You probably need to invest in a lock for the team snack cabinet now.
Or just an individual one.
Just everyone needs to bring their own. Okay. Well, thanks, Chris. I'm pleased to see you see some silver lining to those clouds. 49ers at 1.3, they took Trey Lance. I think that's what pretty much everyone in the end was expecting them to do. But, we were all big on Justin Fields. Do you think when we look back at this, that will look like a good move or not?
Well, as we've seen, they probably could have waited for Justin Fields. I think they were 12 or 13, I think the 49ers were originally. So they probably could have got him. Or maybe not. But maybe could have moved up 1 or 2 spots. I think there was a lot more talk, certainly the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, about Trey Lance being the 49ers guy. And you don't give up what they gave up to move up for Mac Jones. So it was never Mac Jones. It was Fields or Lance. So I think you've got to take the shot. You've got to take the shot.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll see. Could be an inspired pick. Could definitely be. Justin Herbert is one player who, really, typifies exactly what our thoughts of Trey Lance were going in, and definitely the recency bias has changed where that was valued in terms of the league. I 100% believe. Let's finish on 2 high notes. Tennessee Titans. I think they had a really good draft. They obviously famously basically got rid of their entire defensive back unit. However, I feel like they addressed it so well. Caleb Farley, what great value that was for them. Hopefully the injury concerns are just that, concerns. Elijah Molden, PFF ranked him as their best slot cornerback from college football in the entire period when they've been doing their stats at college football level. So again, that's incredible value. Dylan Radins, you get a top offensive line talent, from a small school. one of the primary reasons why Trey Lance had the opportunities he did. But yeah, you've got a good developmental prospect there as well. And then they got Rashad Weaver, who I thought was a great edge prospect. So I was very pleased with what the Titans did.
Yeah, I mean, they've already got a good setup, a good GM, a good coaching team, good players. They're in a position to win. And you know, to see Caleb Farley drop, obviously with the back concerns, but you know, that was a position they needed after Adoree Jackson was moved on. So to get arguably the second or third best cornerback at pick 22, I don't think they were complaining, especially seeing we saw Russo move a few picks before them. But yeah, Titans are a team to watch. They're a team to win. They're a team to win now.
Yeah, absolutely, they are. And then I know they also picked up a wide receiver named. I've lost his name, but yeah, I know they were really high on him at post-draft too. Washington football team, another team had a really great, well-rounded draft. Show exactly what you need to do if you're a quarterback-needy team, but not willing to take one of the top quarterbacks. And I think they absolutely did the perfect job. You know, they have so many needs, and they filled them out really well. Jamin Davis, incredible talent at linebacker, came out of nowhere, basically off the back of a pro day, you know, like one of these combine warriors. But, you know, what an athlete that man is. And, you know, linebacker is one of the positions in the NFL where athleticism really translates well. So it'll be really good to see what happens with him. Sam Cosmi, brilliant offensive line talent. Definitely a round one pick for most people. Diami Brown, the other guy, other than Daz Newsome, who's at North Carolina, wide receiver, again, a brilliant season. You know, watch out for Sam Howell. He's coming to the NFL next season. When you've got top-tier wide receivers, that always helps the quarterback, and it definitely did for him. And then he got Shaka Toney, some brilliant edge rushing values. So, you know, for me, they had exactly what they needed to have as a draft. There'll be some gems in there, I'm sure, and hopefully they can then start to address the quarterback position.
Yeah, I fully echo that. There's not really much more I need to say. Jamin Davis, like superb talent. Samuel Cosmi, there were rumors pre-draft of him going to the Steelers in round one. So to see him not come to us, and only a few picks before in the second round is disappointing. But yeah, they've got Fitzpatrick. They've got their quarterback for this year at least. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do this year. And hopefully, well, who knows, maybe they'll win the division again.
Yeah, I mean, Fitzpatrick is the perfect dip test for your organization. If you can go on a winning record with Fitzpatrick, you know that you're a quarterback away from a brilliant team. You know, if he can really put you in a good stead to go on and show playoff potential, then, you know, all you need is that quarterback. And yeah, I mean, who knows about Taylor Heinicke as well? I know he's been getting ready for the season too. I just think it was a smart move not to, you know, why bother with one of the mid-round guys? You know, Jamie Newman was still there as an undrafted free agent. Maybe they go in that direction. I don't know.
Oh, I saw somebody picked him up actually.
Oh, I should have checked that one. Yeah, but yeah.
I can't remember for the life of me. But no, a new contract for Heinicke. Obviously, had the injury towards the end of last season, so missed out. But yeah, Fitz is a fantastic and experienced quarterback as well. So just as you said, if you're surrounding the team and you're building that roster, when you've missed out on the top 3, top 4 guys, and with Matt Jones going at 15, a few picks ahead, there's no one else there who's in this draft class who's worth that first round talent or second round talent. Well, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you're going to strengthen the roster in all the other areas that you do need, then next year you're definitely in a position to make a trade as well.
Yeah, exactly. I just looked it up. Jamie Newman went to the Eagles.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think it was a really good draft in the end. It was interesting to see what happened. I think they did a brilliant section there as well in Cleveland with the fully vaccinated fans and everything. But yeah, it was good. It was good watch.
Yeah, for me, I had one question I wanted to pose to you. What did you make of the Seahawks 3 picks?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason we didn't talk about them is because they're a middling draft, in my opinion. You didn't have very much in the first place, so you did what you did with it. I love the pickup of Stone Forsyth, brilliant athleticism at tackle. They picked him up in the sixth after trading up there. Trey Brown is a very handsy, tenacious cornerback who they want to stick on the outside, but they need to watch his penalties. But if there's any team which can train up a cornerback, then it's the Seahawks. And Dwayne Eskridge, you get great wide receiver. Suddenly, that wide receiver room's looking really good. They also picked up a lot of undrafted free agents. They had about 17 spots available. They picked up about 10 yesterday, two of which were two of the highest rated wide receivers around, Cade Johnson and Tamorrion Terry, both of which for a lot of analysts were mid-round talents, round 3 to round 5, I believe, for Cade Johnson, and about round 4 to round 6 for Tamorrion Terry. So they did what they needed to do. I wasn't blown away, but short of somehow Justin Fields falling to round 2, like there's not much which could blow you away, right? Unless one of those premier talents becomes available, which
it would take something really special to blow someone away with 3 picks. But I think the most important thing is Russ looks like he's staying. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, no news is good news on that front. And at least if Aaron Rodgers seems unhappy, then now you've got quite a few quarterbacks unhappy, and then it just sounds like they're unhappy rather than anything's going to happen. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks, Chris. It's great to have a chance to go through everything. Obviously, we'll dissect a bit more in the pods, and there's plenty of time to think about fantasy implications. Although we can already start thinking about ETN, Najee Harris, top wide receivers, maybe even some quarterbacks. Probably not Pat Frymouth, but maybe Kyle Pitts. But yeah, we'll see how that all impacts. So thanks for joining, guys.